I'm going to generally respond to the comments that I got on my video about Alex Preddy and the Second Amendment. And the majority of them, of course, were along the lines of, well, he should have just stayed home, or some variation on that. Why would he put himself in that volatile situation while having a gun, etc.? Okay, well, so we're supposed to be allowed to have guns unless we go somewhere dangerous with them. Then we should just leave them at home. I'm sure that's what the Founding Fathers intended when they wrote that Second Amendment into the Constitution. Doesn't add up with the arguments for allowing assault rifles and any other kind of weapon. Hey, there's no limitation there. They didn't say you can have guns except, or but, or with these limitations, or but be smart about it. That's not an intended limitation there. And I think that if it had been any other circumstance, under any other circumstance, or if it had been, a Democrat saying to one of those people, hey, yeah, you can have guns. Like, we don't mind if you have guns, but just don't bring them around federal agents because, that's dangerous. They'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? Second Amendment means I can bring my guns where I want to, when I want to, for the reasons I want to, and as long as I don't unholster and attempt to use that weapon on someone without reason, I'm good to go. But all of a sudden, we're not supposed to bring them into dangerous situations. We're not supposed to bring them into situations where it could be mistaken for some sort of intention that we might have. We're not supposed to bring them into situations where someone might get confused. I thought that Republicans were the party of not getting confused about things that you don't need to be confused about. The other part of this issue is the statement that he should have stayed home because, hey, this was bound to happen. Because he had a gun, not because he had a gun, whatever, this getting involved in this situation, something bad was bound to happen, and he could have just prioritized protecting himself. We did not get where we got in America, in this country, because people said, man, if I go out and actually stand up for the things I believe in, something bad might happen to me. We better not throw this tea overboard because, man, the government, our government, because the British government was still supposedly their legitimate government at the time, it might do something bad to me. It might do something bad to my family. And there was a war fought. There was a war fought for independence from the British. That's the way things went in history. How would it have gone if we'd done something different? I don't know. Maybe give it 10 years and things would have died down and the British would have said, yeah, you know what, why don't you go ahead and be your own country anyways. There were some prominent voices in Britain who were arguing for that and saying, hey, just let them trade with us and whatever, it's beneficial to everybody. We don't really need to be their government. Let them have their own government. Let them break away. So yeah, it might have happened that way. But it still is true that history happened the way it happened. We did become a free country. Could it have happened in a more blood-free way? Maybe. I think that's a legitimate discussion. But we became a free country, and it didn't happen because everyone said, yeah, let's just stay home. Bad things might happen to us if we go out and express our opinions in front of the wrong people, in front of the people who hold the power. And so this is an admission, right? This is you saying, if you're saying this is you saying, you know what? Federal law enforcement might shoot you. And you should be scared of that, and you should stay home. No, we should not be scared of that, because it shouldn't happen. Let's talk about why it happened. Let's talk about fixing the actual problem instead of just staying home to stay safe. I said this in my other longer video, but I want to say it facing the camera too. I have been to multiple other countries. And even when I was in other countries, the one that comes to mind is Honduras. And I was in a city in Honduras and I walked around at night. I was the only person in the streets. Windows were shut. It was dead quiet. And I was like, man, I don't feel scared, but maybe I should be scared because I have never been anywhere. And I've walked around everywhere at night in the US, streets of LA, Chicago, other major cities, out in the country, rural American towns in the north, in the south, in the west. I've walked around many, many places at night. And Colombia, Bogota, Colombia, Peru, Bolivia, Mexico. I've walked around the streets at night. And there are people, not a lot of people, but there's people. You run into people on occasion. And in Honduras, there was nobody. It was creepy. And I didn't get killed. I didn't get shot. I mean, anyone, whatever the reason people were staying in their houses, they probably stayed in their houses so effectively and so well for such a long time that, those people who are out to harm you was like, it's pointless. We're not going to get anybody. Nobody goes out. And so, I don't know. It was weird. But what I can tell you is that's not America. In America, you don't have to stay home. You are not supposed to be afraid to go exercise your rights, including the First Amendment right to protest, to assemble. And the government doesn't just get to take that away from you. Well, we don't like what those people are assembling about. Let's call that an unlawful assembly. Raise your hand, go ahead and identify yourself in the comments if you fully trust our government under any administration to tell you when it's lawful to assemble or not, or when it's lawful to do any other thing that's protected under the Constitution. You're good with the government just saying, well, we don't want you to right now and right here, so just don't do it. And if you do, you might get shot. And if you get shot, it's your own fault because, why would you put yourself in that situation? That is not how the U.S. is supposed to work. The Democrats, not just the Democrats, because a lot of what happened during COVID did happen under the Trump administration. Some of it came from local leaders. Some of the worst of it came from local leaders who were Democrats, but not all of it. Some of it happened and came directly from the Trump administration. We could really dive into that, and I will dive into it in a different video. But my point is, when the U.S. government told me that I couldn't go out in public without a mask, I went wherever the hell I wanted without a mask. Because there should be something in every American that intuitively feels that it is wrong for your government to tell you what you can and cannot do, especially in regards to freedoms that are protected by the Constitution. Now, other little nuanced things, there's legitimate laws and there's legitimate law enforcement and all that's important. But there are some things that are constitutional freedoms. They are foundational to our country, and it should immediately bother any of us when we are told that those freedoms don't apply in this situation. This situation is so important that the government needs to be able to tell you what to do and needs to be able to tell you that you can't do those things that are constitutionally protected for you to be able to do. And I did not buy it when it was COVID, and I don't buy it now. This is an assertion of government control, and liberals, when they're in power, are going to use liberal stances that get liberals on board and say, yeah, well, this is a liberal issue that's important enough that we need to take away your freedoms. And then when Republicans are in power, they're going to use Republican issues or dog whistles or catchphrases or whatever you want to call it, and they're going to say, well, this is important enough that we need to take away your freedoms, or we need to take away the freedoms of the other side. And it's okay if we take away their freedoms. You don't like them anyways. You don't like what they stand for. You don't like what they believe. You don't like what they are protesting for. You probably don't understand what they're protesting for. Because there's very few people protesting to actually prevent the deportation of illegal immigrants. There's a lot of people protesting against overreach by the federal government, which should be something that bothers all of us. It's a shame that we don't join each other's fights a little bit more often. You know, that when it's a conservative issue about freedom, about constitutional rights, the liberals are like, well, we're going to sit this one out. And when it's a liberal issue about the constitutional rights and our freedoms, conservatives are like, well, I'm going to sit this one out and tell you should stay home. That's not a conservative viewpoint. It's not an American viewpoint. Staying home so that you are safe, that's something you do in Honduras. It's not something you do in America. And I think that's at the heart of this issue. And it's the flaw in all of the comments that have any hint of he shouldn't have been there, he shouldn't have brought a gun there, he shouldn't have this, he shouldn't have that. What you're saying is that these little things that he should have or shouldn't have done are enough that we're going to justify, we're going to sit here and argue for the side of the people who killed him for it. Did he make some sort of mistake at some point? I'm not going to admit he did. I'm not going to say he did. Because I watched that video and I see someone who acted just about as flawlessly as anyone could act in the setting and in the situation. But if he did make any mistake, it wasn't one that should have got him killed. And to say that the mistakes a person makes are more important to focus on than the action of killing that person, that we somehow need some sort of elaborate investigation into this to understand what we can see clearly with our own eyes when we watch the video, that his rights were violated starting well before he got shot. I don't buy it. And I'm shocked by the number of people who are trying to sell it. I hope you take a close look at your viewpoints and your rationale and your blind spots if that's the perspective that you are pushing. Thank you for watching the video.